Hi, friends. How are you doing tonight?
Pretty good. Yourself?
I had a little bit of Zoom complications, but everything's fine now.
Okay.
Oh my gosh, plug my computer in.
Well, yes, this one happened to me this week with a client.
Oh, well, um, all right, so we're 1 minute past, but obviously we're not all here, so we'll just wait a little bit. Uh, I'm gonna tell this to people as they come in, but I just want to make sure that you are ready to paint, as in like things are open, you have your water jars and things like that, because once we get started, there's not going to be time for, well, there's always time for anything, but it'll be easier if you're already prepped. It'll flow better for you if you're already prepped.
Okay, I'll get prepped now.
Awesome. Ding ding. Hey, Amanda. So Amanda, I was just saying to Pam and Heather that you want to make sure that you're ready to paint, like you have water in jars and stuff like that, because it'll be easier if you don't have to do that kind of prep once we get started.
Thank you. Got it right here.
And I'm just realizing I actually don't know if anybody is not coming tonight. Well, let's just wait a couple more minutes because it's a drag to start and not have and then have people join. All right. I think, is this Misty? Let's see. Thank you, Otter. One, two, three, four, five, six, seven, eight. And we have one, two, three, four. Four is half of eight. Yes, it's Misty. Hey, Misty. Misty, I was just telling the other folks that it's best if you have your stuff ready to go. So if you need to fill your jars of water and things like that, now is a good time. Okay, I'm gonna give it one more minute and then let's get started just to honor our own time. And because there's lots of good stuff tonight and I don't really want to cut any of it short. And we're actually gonna start after just a few words, we're gonna start with journaling. So that's a good place for people to come in. Okay. So it probably hasn't escaped your attention that Christine's not here right now. She's just finishing up the birth art class. I don't remember if she told you all, but she just has to finish that up and she'll be here in just a little bit. But I'm going to get us started. So let's just take a quick minute to find ourselves in the room. If you want to close your eyes, you can. You don't have to. I'm just right now sort of rocking back and forth in my chair. Maybe you want to do the same. Try it out. Find yourself sitting. Find yourself located. Find where your body is in the room. Find where your body is in space. And then maybe think just a moment about where your mind is. Your mind may have not reached the room in this moment. Sometimes our minds trail behind our bodies. That's okay. Just see if you might be able to locate where your mind is in this moment. And gently invite it into your body. Let's extend that invitation with a couple of deep, mindful breaths in and out. And in and out. And open your eyes when you're ready and find that you are here. We're all here. So I want to start this evening just talking very briefly. Actually, you know what? I'm going to give a little bit of um, a preview of what we're going to do because once we start doing, I don't really want to stop to go back into sort of our headspace and our thinking and analytical space. So, with apologies to those who already heard me say this, Christine will be joining us in about 20 minutes, number one. Number two, please have your paints or your art supplies or whatever you have ready to go so that once I say, okay, we're going to get started, then you don't have to take lids off things or fill jars of water or find your wet wipes for your fingers. So make sure you're really ready to work with your art supplies. We're actually going to do a little bit of process painting this evening. We're going to do some journaling and we're going to do some process painting. And I just want to let you know or give you a heads up, I'm not going to be process painting with you. I don't know if you remember these instructions or this idea from working on birth art, but when you are the one leading, it's really not the best mind space for you to also be engaging in the art processes. That's not a hard and fast rule. Sometimes you may, but often facilitating a group of people isn't the same mindset you might be needing to work on process art. And also, you know, if you're working on something in front of a group, you really run the risk of them going into much more intense comparison mind because you're, no matter how you run your classroom, so to speak, we can't escape the fact that there's always going to be a way in which we are the authority figure there. So if you're doing art in front of your class, then there can be sort of this comparison mind or this anxiety about what the teacher is doing versus what I'm doing. So those are a couple of reasons. So I might work on this, that, or the other, but I won't be process painting along with you. All right, so everybody is ready to settle in. All right. So today we're going to be talking about the love warrior. That's the final archetype that we haven't gone into, but we're not going to be starting directly with the love warrior. In fact, the way that we're going to start now towards the very end of our work together is by going backwards to our first session together. But first I'm going to close my bedroom door because the dog's in there. I don't want him to bark. Hold on, sorry. Sorry about that. Okay, so I don't know if you recall, but in our very first session together, we talked about our heart's questions. And you all formulated a heart's question of your own, one that might serve as a compass for this orientation process and possibly beyond in your work as a facilitator. So now we're going to revisit that question. And I think Christine left you with the instructions to bring a formulated hearts question. Is that correct? Yes, maybe not. So if you did bring your hearts question or a hearts question, you can start with that. Yeah, that's fine. And if not, maybe you have a different one, or even if you did bring one, maybe you have a different one arising in you right now. But that's where we're going to start. So we're going to start with your heart's question. I'd like you to open to a fresh facing page in your journal. And then whatever heart's question is arising for you right now, I'd like you to write it in the center. And then we're going to take about 10 minutes to journal around that. So if you do have a heart's question, then you've written it down or you're in the process of writing it down. If you don't worry. I think you can probably arrive at one during your journaling, I'm betting. So I'm just going to pop a few questions into the chat. You don't have to respond to these questions in particular, but they're just some thoughts. So first of all, this is an obvious one. What is your heart's question in this moment? Maybe it has changed. Has it changed from the past? How did you arrive at it? And this may or may not be so for you, but how does your heart's question right now represent a change for you? Often the heart's question points towards a change, some sort of change we're interested in making or experiencing. What does it mean for you to answer this question? Where does this question guide you? So if you think of the heart's question as a compass, right? It's bringing you from somewhere potentially to somewhere. So in what direction is this question pointing you? Those are just ideas. So you can use those if you like, but in the big picture, what you're doing is just spending some time journaling around your heart's question right now. So I'm going to give you some time to do that, about 10 minutes, and I'll give you a little bit of a heads up as we draw to the end of that time. Give yourself about 2 more minutes here. Think about what else needs to be said about your heart's question, how you arrived at it, and where it may bring you. And now you can find a way to wrap up the thought that you're working on. If you need to make a note as to any further writing or exploration you'd like to do, go ahead and do that. All right. So now let's turn to process painting. To one degree or another, all of the art that we do in Birthing from Within is process art. Does anyone want to take a stab at or give us a sense of what that might mean, process art, as opposed to what art?
As opposed to like, I don't know, I guess like fine art, like art where the goal is the finished product and not the process of making it.
Anyone else? Yeah, it's pretty straightforward. It's just like Pam said, as opposed to process art has to do with the intention with which we make the art. When we lead parents in a birth art process, we truly do not really care about the image that they come up with. It does not matter to us as, facilitators or instructors or mentors at all. Um, and it doesn't really matter to us either whether they like how the item that they came up with looks, right? This doesn't really matter to us. In fact, as you know, we generally try to model not doing any show and tell of the art at all, right? Having the parent place it behind them and just talk about the experience of making the art. So yeah, process art is art that's about the making rather than what comes out at the end. If you literally immediately set fire to it after you've made it, it doesn't make a difference. It doesn't make a difference. It doesn't make a difference if you like it or dislike it or hang it up on the wall or keep it forever or burn it, throw it out in the trash. Process painting is painting done with this in mind. We generally get the phrase process painting from Michel Cassou. Has anyone read any of Michel Cassou's books? I think one is on our reading list. Pam, is that your hands?
I didn't mean to put my hand on, but yeah, one of them is on our reading list, but I'm struggling to remember what it's called. It's like creativity.
0.
Point zero. I think it's like point zero colon creativity at its limit. I have it over here. Hold on. I don't have the spine facing me because I find it to be ugly. Point zero creativity without limits is what it's called. It's classic process art, right? And then the other one is called Life, Paint, and Passion, which looks like this. But Michelle Cassou is a person who reminds me a lot of Pam England, where, you know, she had this idea and it was kind of a profound idea that once you say it out loud, maybe sounds a little bit simple, like a lot of Pam's ideas. But then once you really investigate it and start sharing with people, you realize how deep it is. But a lot of what we teach about process painting comes from her work, which is interesting and not really very difficult to engage with. So I recommend it. I'm just going to read you a few quotes from Life, Paint, and Passion. And I invite you to make connections for yourself. I'm not going to comment on these quotes. I just invite you to make connections within yourself about how this is connected with our work. This book is about painting for process. It sounds very simple, but it's a radical thing because usually we want something out of what we do. To create is to move into the unknown, to move into the mystery of yourself, to have feeling, to awaken buried perceptions, to be alive and free without worrying about the result. The fascination of a vision might linger, but it is imperative that you let go of it and move on to the demands of the moment. To meet your passion, you must jump naked into the deep waters of the unknown. It is an act of love and trust. You paint what is given to you as it comes, never avoiding, postponing, or bargaining. You listen carefully inside, entering the mystery, moving toward the real, learning to be where you are. Process painting is painting in the unknown. It's working through the unknown. It's asking what the painting in front of you is asking of you. It's asking what more does it need? And it's asking, how do I know when I'm finished? And what does it mean to be finished? So that's what we're going to do this evening. We are going to do a little bit of process painting right on top of the journaling that you just did. So the first thing I want to do now is turn towards the love warrior. And we're going to just do a little bit of an invocation of the love warrior here. So we're going to find, if you can find just a comfortable seat again, you can put down your pen for a moment, put down your notebook. And one more time, just like we did at the beginning, just settle into your breath and your body. Take a moment to breathe yourself into your space. Take a moment to breathe your mind into your body. And as your mind settles in your body, I want you to see if you can feel into all of the different energies in your body right now. All of the different archetypes that are moving within you. Maybe there's 4, maybe there's 17, maybe there's 300. You don't have to name them or identify them, but can you feel them moving through you? All of the different intentions, all of the different energies, the different desires, the different fears, the different paces. And I want you to see if you can begin to tune into the parts of you that are the love warrior. Tune into the parts of you that know what to do when you don't know what to do. Tune into the parts of you that show up even when you are in an unknown space. The parts of you that sit still and face reality even when you are afraid or unsure or not wanting to be there. Of you that are the doing. Find that energy and follow it inside you. See if you can follow its movements, its pace. And as you follow the love warrior inside you, in just a moment, you're going to open your eyes and follow that love warrior onto your paper. When you open your eyes and look at your paints, you may find that a certain color calls out to you. Pick up your brush and begin with that color as soon as you're ready. As you look at your work, consider what more is it asking for? What else might be needed here? We're going to work for just a few more minutes. Start considering now if you're going to finish, where is your painting wanting to be finished? What is it asking for before you leave it for the moment? What does it need in order to come to resolution? We're going to take about the next 15 to 30 seconds or so to find a place, if not to stop, to pause in your process. This is something like the rest of everything in your journal. This is something that you can return to later. It is never final. It is never finished, but it is going to come to a pause. As soon as you've found that pause, and our apologies, we forgot to tell you that you needed this, but if you can just grab a piece of paper that's not your journal, because your journal page is wet right now, so you can't turn the page. So if you can just find any old little piece of paper um, in the room or somewhere else. And this is something that, if it's generative for you, you can glue into your journal as soon as this painted page dries. But I just want you to take a moment and capture the experience of painting. What happened while you were painting? If anything surprised you, if something changed for you over the course of the activity. If there's something that you know now that you didn't know before you started. As the experience is fresh in your mind, just toss it down on your paper. Just give yourself a minute to note down any further thoughts, anything you want to capture, not forget. Find a way to put a period to your last thought. And let us know what happened for you while you were painting.
I can share a little bit. When I first started painting, I got like a lot of anxiety to cover up the words that I had just written, like as if I would forget the wisdom that was down on the paper or something. And as I like allowed myself to drop into the practice and enjoy the painting, I was like freed from that fear and reminded that all of that came from me, from within me, and just like felt like a practice of building deeper trust and connection with like stepping into that place of the inner creative and into flow, and just remembering that like even the imperfections and the even the imperfections are important and invited, because that's how we're humbled in our processes, and that's how we connect with others, is by being human. And just a lot of deep stepping away from perfection and remembering that everything in any ways that I can serve others comes from within, and letting myself access those places of flow and creativity.
Thank you. What else?
Yeah, for me, um, when you first said like whatever color, like that part was easy, or like it started off good and then the over analyzing began, and this isn't coming from the right place, or like, do I want to do this because I'm trying to do a thing, or like what is happening? Um, and that went on for a while, but eventually I just got into the groove and the mind quieted down. Um, but it felt like it was coming more from that felt place. Um, but it did feel like I had to go through those. I had to go through the doubt and the over analyzing to get to that place. Yeah.
Thank you. What else?
I was kind of, oh, do you want to go, Amanda?
You go first.
I was like, I was surprised in a way that I've been surprised before, at like how much stuff can come up that like I wouldn't have consciously thought of. I found myself like painting and developing like a character, like a story character of the love warrior, and it was like not at all what I would have how I would have like consciously pictured the love warrior. And like when I've done that type of process before of kind of like I don't know how to explain it other than like exploring like an archetype or a character, um and like asking myself questions about them or letting information about them bubble up, it's always amazing to me like how much stuff comes up. And then when I was like journaling about it afterwards, amazing how much that surprising stuff made sense, like how much stuff just came up kind of like I'm painting and I'm like getting a feeling of this character that's like a fox or maybe a bat or a cat, like something nocturnal, and it's like in the dark and kind of creepy and like kind of giving vibes of like the Hermit tarot card, but like not with a lantern, just like being in the dark. And then as I was journaling, I was like, right, that makes sense, that like some if you're that your habitat is the unknown, that if you're like a warrior who like lives in the unknown, that you like are nocturnal. Like that makes sense on a metaphorical level. But I don't know, I found it very fruitful.
Thank you. Amanda?
Um, for me, I wrote on the page where I had started my original Heart's Question. And when I went through the entire process of journaling, when I was mulling over what my Heart's Question is now, I went back to what my Heart's Question was when I was getting certified as a Birthing from Within mentor. And so it was just like this theme of going back and going back, of like going on this journey to then return from where I started. And when I had written in the journal, I like made like round circles, and I kind of had that not in the forefront of my mind, but when I kind of dropped in and you had prompted us to like think of something, whatever comes to the mind, to start painting. And so what came to mind was the woman in the arena, kind of like the man in the arena. And so then I was going to start with that, and I started painting. And then when I opened my eyes and I looked at the page, literally all those circles looked like an arena. And so it was like there for me. I was like, oh yes, this makes sense. It's there. I created it before so that I could be here now and come back to it. So that was super cool. And then I ended up trying to make my own labyrinth based on a different shape. And I was tracing it and it didn't work because I kept running into the end, or what seemed like the end. And then I figured out, oh no, that's just a gate or a barrier to cross. And so I can just knock that down with paint and keep going through. And it was very cool to just go back to like the beginning and go back to what I already knew and what I already had, and just move through it.
Thank you. When we do Labyrinth with parents, often our keystone question is, and how is that like birth? And I want to ask you right now, your experience with the process painting, either what you shared or things that you didn't share. How is that like your birthing from within practice?
I'd say it's just all so unknown, but also so intriguing and enjoyable, and always a path for deepening.
I think that for me, like the feeling that was like trying to describe of coming out of this art process was just like being surprised at how much information was there that I didn't know was there, and having like the right tools making it suddenly accessible. And I feel like I've gotten a lot of that out of birthing from within for myself, like having those tools to access information that is in there that I didn't know was there. And when I work with other people, like, and it kind of ties into what my heart's question ended up being, like the renewed version. But kind of helping, just being like the vehicle to find those right tools and processes to help other people find out what is within them that's already there, that is maybe a much deeper well than they recognize. Not like giving them stuff, but like being the vehicle to help them uncover stuff and maybe being surprised by how much is there. I hope I'm making sense. I feel like I'm still like slightly in a trance.
It's a good place to be. What else? Another way that I might ask that question is, what did you learn about yourself as a facilitator?
I think I learned that part of what I'm asking is like, who am I here to serve? And that was my original question. And I knew the answer to a lot of it, but what I know about myself now as a facilitator and what was pleasantly a surprise was I am here to serve other birth workers as well. And I had to go through a lot of process to know that I have done enough, I am enough, I'm worthy, and that it's what I want to do.
Anything else? In most of your descriptions of what happened during your painting, there was sort of a turn, right, where you're sort of going in a certain direction mentally, and then you kind of went in another direction. I wanted to look at that. How did you know to make that turn? Or how did that turn happen?
I think the turn happened for me because I kept going. I don't know if that's too simple of an answer, but I think it was that even though there was this questioning, I just kept going until it got to a place where, yeah, it was more flowy.
I really appreciate when we get to do paints, because sometimes the colors aid in helping this turn come. Like there was at first with all the reds and like oranges, and it was like a lot of like just bright and colors. And then when like a deeper color calls, it's like helps make that shift, just like the feeling and the essence of like painting with a deep indigo blue helps shift the inner essence and mind, you know. So just, I think, playing in this creative space with color is really like therapeutic in helping guide the mind.
Any other thoughts?
Yeah, I think I resonate a lot with what Heather was sharing, in that essentially I just kept going. I started my painting process with a lot of like not unpacked, but like unacknowledged anger. Like I started angry. I did. Because my heart's question, I think as I think about it deeper and deeper, it's still this kind of like frustration that I cannot control everything. And I don't like that feeling. It's like acknowledging like, no, you really do want to control everything, and you really like perfection, and your logical brain knows that that's not possible in every role that you show up in, but you still want it, and angry because of it. So I started angry and I just kept going with that. And so that led me to choose my color and all of that. And at some point I closed the book, allowing the pages to stick together. And so in a way I kept going like with what, similar to what Heather's describing, right? Like I just kept going in my case, following the frustration and saying, well, okay, yeah, damn, I can't control everything. So let me like shut the pages or crumple it, or like lean into this idea of like, it can't be perfect. It can't be perfect. It can't be perfect. And that continued to give way to different energy, which wasn't really at the end. I'm just being honest. Like it wasn't necessarily like acceptance. Like I didn't arrive at a place where I was like, okay, yeah, I'm all good now. But it felt it felt good to acknowledge that I'm angry, that I can't have I can't have the outcome that I'm seeking. And to not sort of like dress that up and say like, well, everybody wants things to be, it's like, no, I'm mad. It can't be how I want it to be. Yeah, I feel like I'm rambling now, but yeah, I resonate a lot with what Heather was sharing.
Yeah, that's a really powerful journey. I want to pick up just a few concepts that the three of you just now, Misty, Heather, and Luann, shared. The first one is following. Luann, you used the word, and I thought it right before you said it. This idea of following the feeling or following what's happening instead of turning away from it, and allowing that following to dictate your next motion, which might not always be what you expected or what even makes sense in the moment, like closing two wet pages of paint together as being the right next step for you. So I want you to think just a moment about the concept of following and how that might work for a facilitator, right? If you're leading a group of people in a call or in a retreat or in a training, right? What it might mean to follow. You don't have to say it, but I just want you to think about that for a moment. And then to add to that concept, what both Luann and Heather said of just the question of keep going. Because obviously you're going to keep going. None of us, neither Christine nor I, ever expect that you will simply end a class because you're not into it or you don't know what to do next. So In that way, yes, of course you'll keep going. But what does it mean to keep going internally, right? Is there a way that you might continue with the class, but really you've shut down? I mean, what does it mean to stay open and to keep going internally in order to get past or on your way through a moment of unsureness, anxiety, anger, the process not looking how you wanted it to look, your internal landscape not feeling the way you wanted it to feel? What does it mean to really keep going? And the final piece I wanted to pick up for you to think about what it might mean for you as a facilitator is what Misty said about the colors, right? How having the different colors in front of her sort of aided in the journey, right? As opposed to, for example, journaling, right? Which is a slightly different function. And deeper colors versus brighter colors, and being able to use them in a progression and being able to choose. I want you to take a moment, and again, you don't have to say anything, but just think about, how does that work for a facilitator? In what way can we access, choose, flow between different colors as we create the experiences for our course participants? And how do you know when to change colors? So those three things: following, keeping going, and changing or choosing colors, changing, choosing, or using colors. Might be interesting ways for you to think about your work as a facilitator. If you want to take a note on that, go for it, because there's one more thing that I want to talk about, that Christine and I wanted to talk about before we wrap up the day, which this might be a question that's alive in your head right now. You notice that I keep saying that this session is about the love warrior, but we actually journaled about the heart's question, and then you did your love warrior evocation process painting on top of the heart's question. But why? How are the heart's question and the love warrior related? And how is the heart's question process, that you lead parents through? How is that related to the work of the love warrior? Why have Christine and I brought you those two things together today? Any thoughts on that matter?
I feel like, and this also came up during my painting process, but that the love warrior is the one who, in response to the heart's question, continues to seek and hunt and stalk and keep going to further explore the heart's question, to further understand, to further familiarize himself, even if there is no like huge epiphany or we figured it all out. But the love warrior shows up to protect, to provide, to live into, and continue following the heart's question, to deepen into an experience or into who we are, or into the deeper parts of how we can offer in any of those contexts. Is that the love warrior shows up in response, you know, or in connection.
Thank you. What else?
Earlier, Kayuki, when we were talking about the love warrior, we talked about this part of us that knows what to do when we don't know what to do, when we're like kind of lost in the unknown. How do we keep going? How do we know what to do? And I've always thought of the heart's question as like a tool for those situations. Like I could think of it maybe as a tool that the love warrior carries in their pack when you're in, I'm going to continue this metaphor here, like when you're in terrain that where you don't have a map, or maybe you can't see the path, you don't have any landmarks to look out for, but the heart's question is like a compass, more like a compass than a map. It can like point you in the direction of your values.
Thank you. Yeah. So both of you, I think, have your hands on it, on what's going on here. A lot of times we ask people when they're writing their heart's question to think about in this moment, right? How am I finding what I need in this moment? How am I connecting with my baby in this moment? Things like that. And this moment is where the love warrior acts out of, right? The love warrior arrives in this moment and looks at what is needed in this moment and does the thing that seems right in this moment. If we, we call the love warrior archetype the love warrior because we wanted to make sure people didn't get confused and think in terms of actual violence as they might if we just use the term warrior. But if you pull off love for a minute and think of a warrior, right? The warrior stands, looks around, and throws the spear, right? Throws the spear in the direction it needs to go with no reference to what happened 7 minutes ago or 7 minutes from now, right? So we might think about the love warrior, right? The love warrior arrives in the moment, looks around, and does the thing that needs to be done. And that's what our heart's question tends towards, right? And the heart's question is like the labyrinth. I love the distinction of the compass rather than the map. That's really interesting. I'm going to have to think about that some more. But the heart's question is like the labyrinth in the sense that a birthing person can use it during any moment of any birth, right? Doesn't matter whether the birth is going as planned or not as planned, or they're in the OR when they thought they would be at home, or vice versa. Like, they're giving birth in the parking lot, or whatever it is, right? The heart's question they can always ask, right? If the baby's born early, baby's born in the NICU, or baby has to go to the NICU, things like this. Always the heart's question applies. And those are the places where the love warrior is going to need to show up, right? And the heart's question can evoke the love warrior because we're asking, what is it that is needed now? Anything more? Any questions or comments right now as you sit? Christine? You're muted.
As a way to close tonight, I'd like to offer an invitation for each of you to go around and give voice to whatever heart's question is present in this moment. Maybe it's even different than the one that you wrote in your journal at the start of the call. Whatever heart's question is in your heart in this moment. And to take it a step further, I'll invite you to reflect on if your heart's question had a posture, what would it be? And as you state your question, to move into the posture where you are, wherever that is, whatever it looks like, to allow us to witness and hold the container of being witnessed. And just a word about posture. There is a lot of ongoing conversation around what are sometimes referred to as power stances, that they have, the research shows, have the ability to do things like improve our confidence, but also actually changes body chemistry and releases cortisol. There's some really fascinating studies out there. So in thinking about a posture that might be connected to your heart's question, it might be another tool to add to your life and facilitator belt of like a moment that even just standing in this posture will help to bring you into your love warrior from here on as you think about it. So I'll just allow you to choose yourself to come in. And is there anybody that feels excited to go first or willing? Sharing your heart's question and moving into a posture that it represents or that it's holding for you now.
Sure. My posture is fairly simple. My question is, how am I showing up to be seen in this moment? And it's just an opening.
I'll go. My question, the current version of my question is, how can I seek fullness, not perfection? And my posture would be, in my mind, I'm thinking like child's pose, head to the ground and arms upturned, right? And just trying to connect and receive whatever is there for me in the moment. Surrender almost. And really trying to grasp the fullness of each moment.
And Luann, if you feel like it feels like comfortable for you, we don't have to see you. You can be off camera. It's okay that you don't have to switch your camera to see it. But if you want to actually move into the posture in your room, if that's accessible to you, and actually feel that in your body, and we're just going to hold that container. It doesn't matter if we can't see you. We're going to witness you. Does that feel okay?
Yes,
We're
thank you.
just going to be with you through that here for a moment. Thank you. I'm just feeling that in your body. Yeah. Who would like to go next?
can go next. My heart's question right now is, how am I communing in this moment? And my posture that I'm seeing and feeling is like laying in the grass on my back with my arms outstretched, fingers open. So open in the front to the world, but feeling the support of the earth beneath me.
I see a big, really inviting bed in your background, and I'm wondering if it wants to be your grass for a moment as you just allow yourself to open. Does that feel good in this moment? Do you feel willing to try that? And we'll hold that.
Yeah.
Here. Okay, we're going to hold
Yeah.
that for you. Hmm. Hmm. It's ready to go next.
The heart's question that I have is, how can I further prioritize my life's callings, my life's deepest callings, through discipline in balance with rest and play? I feel like the posture would be like I'm sitting here now with my legs kind of in like butterfly, feet together, knees out wide, one hand on my womb and one hand here, like in a very intentional, direct pose here, representing discipline and intentionality, while the other hand is on the womb, comforting, allowing me to rest. The legs are open, helping me to just stay open. And it feels like, as I'm doing it now, that it's just reminding me that I can do all in balance. It'll be a playful act to find it, but that I have the ability to dance freely through rest, discipline, play in life and in work.
I can go next. My heart's question is, who am I here to serve? And the posture that came to mind was like warrior two in yoga. But instead of my hands stretched out, like straight pointing, with an open hand, like pointing in the direction of where I'm going to go next, but like being open to receive direction, like the universe and like a power greater than myself.
Do you want to move into that pose? Yeah, we'll hold that container for you. Just feeling that in your body.
So I guess that's me. I will name that I'm feeling a bit embarrassed and nervous to get into a posture. And when I stand up, you will see that I'm in my jammies.
You can
But
turn your screen off if that feels better. We don't have to actually see you. This is for you. We're
okay,
just here to hold that space for you. So
okay,
whatever, yeah.
I'll do that.
Yep.
I'll do that then. But my heart's question was, what needs to be witnessed and reflected right now? I had a lot of like magic mirror imagery coming up, and the posture that for some reason I feel like goes with it is I'm imagining myself with like a staff, kind of Gandalf like, where like ready to use it as like walking stick or magical staff or weapon as the moment calls for. So I have this broomstick back here, so I'm gonna turn off my camera and then get into a staff posture.
Thank you, each of you, for the bravery of both giving voice out loud for us to witness and hear your question, for diving into the unknown of painting, and for leaning into a posture. That posture's yours. It's just for you, and nobody knows what it means. And you can move into it anytime that you want or need. And it's a tool. I have a few different postures that I'll use like that before I lead things. I have a song that I sing before I lead things often. So these are kind of just little ways of allowing this work to come through in an embodied way, to offer yourself, the courage, the resilience, whatever it is that you need in that moment. One thing, just a little piece of a suggestion for Heart's questions. I heard a few that were still written in past tense. And I'll encourage you over the next week, as you reflect on your Heart's question, to just see if there's a way that it might shift into the present tense. So for example, if it's how can I, or how will I, how am I, right? How are you already doing the thing that you're hoping to achieve? Because there is some small way, even if it's just a tiny little raindrop in the bucket, that you're already doing that thing. So our next meeting will be with our new group, you all, and the current group of facilitators. We're all going to join together, and Christy Cosby is going to lead us on an intentional creativity experience called Medicine Basket. And I'm going to send an email this week with details about that and supplies to bring. It should be things that you have on hand. In addition, I will send one more recording out, and you'll receive feedback this week on the feedback that you sent us. So thank you for sending along your thoughts around the recording. I'm going to send one more as an opportunity to practice. You can kind of tell they're getting a little harder each time. So that's the goal. And Koyuki and I will get back to you with some details there. We'll see you soon. Thank you so much.
Thank you, everyone. Wonderful work this evening.
Thank you.
Thank you. Good night.
Thank you.